My son and his wife left for a 7-day Alaskan cruise, leaving me to watch my 8-year-old grandson who hadn't spoken a single word since birth. The moment their car disappeared around the corner, Aaron looked me dead in the eye and said in a perfect, clear voice, "Grandma Eli, don't drink the tea Mom made for you. She's been poisoning you. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. I never imagined that babysitting my grandson could save my life. At 67, I thought I'd experienced every shock life could throw at me. I was wrong. The October morning air in Portland carried that peculiar dampness that makes your bones ache if you're over 60. I stood on my front porch cardigan wrapped tight against the chill, watching my son James load the last suitcase into his Tesla Model Y. "Mom, you're absolutely sure you can handle Aaron for the whole week?" It was the 4th time he'd asked. Each time his voice carried that same tone I'd grown to recognize over the past 2 years, love mixed with what sounded uncomfortably like obligation, as if caring for his own mother was just another item on his endless to-do list. "James, I raised you, didn't I?" I kept my voice light, though something in his question stung. "I think I can manage one 8-year-old for 7 days. Caroline emerged from the house, her honey blonde hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. At 36, my daughter-in-law had the kind of polished beauty that comes from expensive salons and dedicated gym memberships. She wore Lululemon leggings and a designer jacket that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Her Tory Burch handbag dangled from one perfectly manicured hand. "Eli." She never called me Mom, always just Eli. "I've left everything you need for Aaron in the kitchen. His routine is very strict. You know how important consistency is for children with his condition." She said the word condition, the way someone might say terminal illness. Aaron stood beside me, his small hand clasped in mine. He wore his favorite dinosaur t-shirt, the one with the T-Rex that James had bought him last Christmas. In his other arm, he clutched Triceratops, the worn stuffed animal he'd had since he was 2. To anyone watching, he appeared exactly as he'd been diagnosed nonverbal, possibly on the autism spectrum, withdrawn from the world around him. The specialists at Oregon Health and Science University had used phrases like selective mutism and developmental delays. For 8 years, we'd all accepted it as fact. "The tea packets are on the counter." Caroline continued, her voice taking on that particular sweetness that always made me slightly uneasy. "I made your favorite chamomile and lavender blend. There's enough for the whole week, 14 packets total. Just add hot water, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. It'll help with your sleep issues." I nodded gratefully. "That's very thoughtful, dear." It was thoughtful, unusually so. Caroline wasn't typically the thoughtful type. In the 3 years since she'd married James, I could count on one hand the number of kind gestures she'd made toward me. But lately, maybe the past few months, she'd been almost attentive, asking about my health, offering to pick up my prescriptions, making special tea blends. At the time, I'd attributed it to her finally warming up to me. Now looking back, I can see how naive that was. "And Eli," Caroline placed a hand on my shoulder, her grip just a touch too firm. "If you start feeling worse, more confused or dizzy, don't worry about calling us. We'll be in the middle of the ocean anyway. Just rest. Sometimes the best medicine for someone your age is simply to lie down and let nature take its course." The phrase should have alarmed me. Let nature take its course is what you say about someone dying, not someone with a little age-related forgetfulness. But I just smiled and nodded. James hugged me goodbye. "Love you, Mom. Call if you need anything, though the cell service will be spotty once we're out at sea." "We'll be fine," I assured him, though I noticed he avoided meeting my eyes. Caroline bent down to Aaron's level. "Be good for Grandma Eli, sweetheart. Remember what we talked about." Aaron didn't respond. He never did. He just stared at her with those intelligent brown eyes, and for a moment I could have sworn I saw something flicker there, something that looked uncomfortably like fear. Then they were gone. The Tesla's electric motor made almost no sound as it pulled away. I stood on the porch, waving until they turned the corner onto Hawthorne Boulevard, heading toward the interstate that would take them to the Seattle cruise terminal. Beside me, Aaron's hand tightened around mine. "Well, sweetheart," I said, turning to go back inside. "It's just you and me for the next 7 days." The October sun was trying to break through Portland's perpetual cloud cover. In a few hours, the Saturday farmers market would be setting up in the park 3 blocks away. My neighbor, Patricia Holbrook, would be tending her roses over the fence. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed safe. Inside the house felt different without James and Caroline's presence. Quieter, yes, but also somehow lighter, as if a weight I hadn't known I was carrying had been lifted. My home had been in the family for 42 years, a modest craftsman-style house in the Hawthorne district worth about $520,000 in today's market, though I'd paid only $75,000 back in 1982. The mortgage had been paid off for 15 years. It had 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and a backyard where I'd once grown tomatoes and herbs, before my knees started objecting to all that kneeling. Aaron went straight to the living room and sat down with his action figures. I'd bought him a new set for this visit, Marvel superheroes, and he immediately began arranging them in careful patterns on the coffee table. I watched him from the kitchen doorway. This was what he did. For hours, he would line up toys in complex arrangements that seemed to follow some internal logic only he understood. The developmental specialist we'd seen 2 years ago said it was common for children with autism, the need for order and pattern. But watching him now, I noticed something I'd never paid attention to before. The patterns he created weren't random. He arranged the figures in mathematical sequences. 3 red figures, 5 blue ones, 8 green ones, 3, 5, 8. The Fibonacci sequence. Could a non-verbal 8-year-old understand the Fibonacci sequence? I shook my head, dismissing the thought. I was seeing patterns where there were none, just like I'd been seeing my reading glasses in the refrigerator last month when they were actually on top of my head. That was another thing. The forgetfulness. It had started maybe 2 years ago. Small things at first. Losing my car keys. Forgetting why I'd walked into a room. But it had gotten worse. Much worse. Last month, I'd driven to the grocery store and completely forgotten where I'd parked. I'd wandered the Safeway parking lot for 20 minutes before a kind teenager helped me find my Toyota Camry. James had started making comments. "Mom, are you sure you're okay living alone? Maybe we should look into some assisted living options just to have on the backup list." Caroline had been even more pointed. "Eli, this level of confusion isn't normal. We're concerned about your safety." They were probably right. I was 67 after all. My own mother had developed dementia at 72. Maybe this was just the beginning of the inevitable decline. I looked at the kitchen counter where Caroline had left the tea packets. 14 small paper envelopes, each one labeled in her precise handwriting. Day 1 morning, Day 1 evening, Day 2 morning, and so on. The thoughtfulness of it struck me again. Caroline had taken the time to portion out individual servings to label them to make sure I wouldn't get confused about dosages. I filled my electric kettle, a Christmas gift from James 3 years ago, and set it to boil. While waiting, I opened the first packet. Day 1, morning. The dried herbs inside looked like chamomile. They smelled like chamomile. But there was something else, too. A slightly medicinal scent I couldn't quite identify. Probably just some additional herb for flavor. Caroline had mentioned lavender. The kettle clicked off. I poured the boiling water into my favorite mug, the one Aaron had made me in a pottery class 2 years ago before they'd pulled him out because he wasn't engaging appropriately with other children. The glaze was uneven, the handle slightly crooked, but I treasured it more than any of my expensive china. The tea steeped to a color darker than I expected. Not the pale yellow of chamomile, but a deeper amber, almost reddish. Maybe that was the lavender. I didn't know much about herbal teas. I was reaching for the honey when my cell phone rang. "Eli, it's Patricia from next door." Patricia Holbrook was 72 and had lived in the house beside mine for the past 16 years. We'd become close after my husband Richard died 11 years ago. She was my walking partner, my coffee companion, my friend. "Good morning, Patricia. How are those roses doing?" "Thriving, thank you for asking. Listen, I just saw James and Caroline leave. You're watching little Aaron this week." "I am indeed." "Would you two like to come to the farmer's market with me? I'm heading over in about an hour." I glanced at Aaron in the living room. He'd moved on from the Fibonacci sequence and was now arranging the figures in some kind of circular pattern. Getting him to transition from an activity was always difficult. The specialist said to give him advance warning to prepare him for changes. "Let me see how Aaron's doing and I'll text you." "Sounds perfect. Oh, and Eli, you sound good today. Clear. Not like last month when you seemed so foggy." After we hung up, I stood looking at the mug of tea. Patricia was right. I did feel clear today. Clearer than I had in weeks. My mind felt sharp-focused. Maybe I was having a good day. I set the mug down and went to check on Aaron. Aaron and I did end up going to the farmer's market with Patricia. We walked the 3 blocks slowly, Aaron's hand in mine. He didn't speak, of course. He never did. But he seemed to pay close attention to everything around us, the other children playing in the park, the dogs on leashes, the vendors setting up their stalls. Patricia bought fresh oregano and rosemary. I got a small bouquet of dahlias because they reminded me of my mother's garden. Aaron pointed at the apple vendor, so I bought him a Honeycrisp, which he ate methodically, his eyes tracking the people around us with an intensity that seemed unusual even for him. "He's such an observer, isn't he?" Patricia commented as we walked back. "Always watching, always thinking." "The doctors say children on the spectrum often process the world differently," I replied. Patricia made a non-committal sound. "You know, Eli, I've lived a long time. Raised 4 children, taught 2nd grade for 32 years. And in my experience, when a child watches that carefully, it's because they're learning, recording, understanding." At the time, I didn't fully grasp what she meant. Back home, I made Aaron lunch peanut butter and jelly on whole wheat cut into triangles the way Caroline's notes specified. No crusts, juice box apple slices on the side. He ate quietly while I sat across from him with my own sandwich. That's when I remembered the tea. The mug was still sitting on the kitchen counter where I'd left it, the water now cold. I'd completely forgotten about it. That was the forgetfulness again, I thought. Can't even remember to drink a cup of tea. I dumped it in the sink and made a fresh cup this time, making sure to actually drink it. The first sip was bitter, much more bitter than I expected from chamomile. I added 2 spoons of honey, which helped, but the medicinal taste remained underneath the sweetness. I managed to finish half the cup before my stomach started feeling queasy. Probably just nerves, I thought. Or maybe I'd eaten something off at the farmer's market. By 2 o'clock, I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. "Aaron, honey, I need to lie down for just a few minutes," I told him. "Can you play quietly in the living room?" He nodded. Always so compliant, so well behaved. The perfect child, really, except for the not speaking part. I made it to my bedroom and collapsed onto the bed without even taking off my shoes. The last thing I remember thinking was that I needed to set an alarm, that I couldn't sleep too long, that Aaron needed supervision. But I didn't set an alarm. And I slept for 4 hours. I woke to my phone ringing. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. The light coming through my bedroom window was all wrong, too orange, too slanted. Was it morning, evening? My mouth tasted like cotton. My head felt stuffed with wool. The phone kept ringing. "Hello?" My voice came out slurred thick. "Eli, it's Caroline. How's everything going?" I struggled to sit up. The room tilted slightly. "Caroline, yes. We're fine. Did you drink your tea today?" The question seemed oddly specific, but my brain was too foggy to wonder about it. Yes, this morning. Very thoughtful of you. Just the morning packet or the evening one, too?" I looked at my bedside clock. 7:45, in the evening. I'd slept away the entire afternoon. Panic cut through the fog. "Aaron, where's Aaron?" "He's probably fine, Eli. Try to remember, did you take the evening tea?" I don't remember. What time is it?" "It's almost 8. Caroline's voice carried a note of satisfaction that even in my confused state I registered as strange. "You sound very tired. Maybe you should have that evening tea and get to bed early. Aaron can tuck himself in, can't he? Could he?" I didn't know. I'd never had to handle his nighttime routine alone before. Caroline always managed it when they visited. "I need to check on him," I said, struggling to stand. My legs felt weak, uncoordinated. "Eli, before you go, how have you been feeling generally? Any dizziness, confusion?" Yes. Quite a bit, actually. I slept all afternoon. I never do that." "That's completely normal for someone your age." Her voice had taken on that soothing, slightly condescending tone. "The tea should help regulate your sleep. Just make sure you have both packets each day. Consistency is important." After we hung up, I made my way to the living room, holding onto walls for balance. Aaron was exactly where I'd left him. He'd apparently been playing quietly for 4 hours while I slept. The action figures were now arranged in an elaborate scene, superheroes on one side, villains on the other, facing off in some kind of battle. But he wasn't playing anymore. He was sitting very still on the couch watching me. When our eyes met, I saw something in his expression that I'd never noticed before. It wasn't the blank, distant look the doctors had described. It was alert, concerned, almost knowing. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I said my words still slightly slurred. Grandma wasn't feeling well. Did you find something to eat? He nodded and pointed to the kitchen. I followed his gesture and found an empty bowl in the sink cereal, apparently. He'd fed himself. An 8-year-old nonverbal child with developmental delays had figured out how to prepare his own snack while his grandmother slept for 4 hours. Some part of my brain tried to flag this as significant, but I was too tired to follow the thought to its conclusion. Let's get you ready for bed, I said. I went through Caroline's detailed checklist. Bath at 8:00, pajamas the blue ones with the rocket ships, brush teeth for exactly 2 minutes. Read him a story even though he supposedly couldn't understand complex narratives. Lights out at 8:45. Through it all, Aaron was perfectly cooperative. He went through each step of the routine without resistance, but always with that same watching-waiting quality. When I finally got him tucked into the guest room bed, I kissed his forehead. Good night, sweet boy. Tomorrow we'll do something fun, okay? Maybe go to the park. He looked up at me, those brown eyes serious and deep. For just a second, his mouth moved. I could have sworn he was trying to tell me something, but no sound came out. I turned off the light and went back to the kitchen. The evening tea packet sat on the counter unopened. Day 1, evening. Caroline had said to take both packets each day. Consistency was important. I filled the kettle again. I woke on the living room couch still in yesterday's clothes. I had no memory of going to sleep there. My mouth was dry. My head pounded. When I tried to stand, the room spun so badly I had to sit back down and wait for it to stop. What was happening to me? This wasn't normal aging. This was something else. I managed to get to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. The woman looking back at me from the mirror seemed older than 67. Her eyes were unfocused with dark circles underneath. Her hair, usually neatly styled, stuck up at odd angles. I heard a sound from the kitchen and my heart jumped. Aaron. I'd forgotten about Aaron again. But when I rushed to the kitchen, moving as quickly as my unsteady legs would allow, I found him sitting at the table, calmly eating a bowl of Cheerios. He'd gotten out the milk himself, poured it without spilling, and was eating with his usual methodical precision. Good morning, sweetheart, I said, my voice hoarse. He looked up at me, and again I saw that flicker of something in his eyes. Concerned fear, I couldn't identify it. On the counter, I counted the tea packets. There should have been 12 left. I'd used one yesterday morning and one last night. But there were 13 packets remaining. Had I miscounted? Had I forgotten to take the evening tea after all? My brain felt too sluggish to figure it out. I opened the packet labeled Day 2 Morning and poured it into my dinosaur mug. This time I noticed the contents more carefully. There was definitely chamomile. The small white and yellow flowers were recognizable. But there were other things too. Powdery white particles that didn't look like any herb I'd ever seen. They looked almost pharmaceutical. I held the mug up to the light, examining it. Don't drink it. The voice was so quiet I thought I'd imagined it. I looked around the empty kitchen. Just me and Aaron. The TV wasn't on. The radio was silent. I raised the mug to my lips. Grandma, don't. This time the voice was louder, clearer, impossible to mistake for my imagination. I turned to look at Aaron. His lips were moving. His eyes were locked on mine, and he was speaking. Don't drink the tea, Grandma Eli. Please. It's making you sick. The mug slipped from my hands. It seemed to fall in slow motion, tumbling through the air. It hit the kitchen floor with a crash that sounded impossibly loud in the sudden silence. Ceramic shards exploded across the white tile. Dark tea spread like blood seeping between the grout lines. But I barely noticed. I couldn't look away from Aaron. My grandson. My 8-year-old grandson who hadn't spoken a word since birth, who had been diagnosed by multiple specialists as nonverbal, who I'd spent 8 years watching in silence, wondering what thoughts lived behind those intelligent eyes. He was speaking. Aaron, my voice came out as a whisper. Did you just talk? He slid off his chair and came to stand in front of me, his small hands clenched into fists at his sides. Tears were streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you before, but I was scared. Mom said if I ever talked when other people were around, something really bad would happen to you. She said I had to stay quiet or you'd disappear forever. My legs gave out. I sat down hard in one of the kitchen chairs, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. You can talk. I said stupidly. All this time, 8 years, you could talk. I can do lots of things, he said, his voice trembling but clear. I can read and write and do math. I learned from Mrs. Holbrook next door. She reads to me through the fence when Mom's at work. She doesn't know I'm not supposed to understand. The world was tilting again, but this time it wasn't from whatever was in the tea. This was shock. Pure, undiluted shock. What do you mean the tea is making me sick? Aaron wiped his face with the back of his hand. Mom puts medicine in it. Bad medicine. The kind that makes you sleepy and confused. She's been doing it for a long time, Grandma. That's why you forget things. That's why you sleep so much when you visit us. I looked at the mess on the floor, the broken mug, the spilled tea. If Aaron was telling the truth... How long have you known? I managed to ask. A really long time. His voice was so small, so young, but the words were precise and articulate. I figured out something was wrong when you started getting confused during visits. You never used to forget things, Grandma. You used to remember everything, all my favorite stories, all the games we played. But then you started forgetting. And I heard Mom on the phone talking about it. Talking about what? He hesitated, looking down at his hands. About how much money you have. About your house. About the life insurance. About how it would all be Dad's when you died. The word hung in the air between us. Died. My daughter-in-law had been poisoning me. Systematically. Deliberately. With the intent that I should die. And she'd been using my own grandson, forcing him to maintain an elaborate pretense of disability to cover it up. Aaron, sweetheart, how long have you been able to talk? Really? What? Always, Grandma. The tears were flowing freely now. I've always been able to talk. But when I was 5, I said Mama in front of Dr. Kim. Mom heard me. She took me home and locked me in my room. She told me that if I ever spoke in front of anyone except her, she would make sure you got sent to a place where I'd never see you again. She said some children go to hospitals where doctors give them shots that make them sleep forever. She said nobody would believe me anyway, because everyone already thought I couldn't talk. My heart shattered. This brave, brilliant child had been carrying this burden for 3 years, living in enforced silence, protecting me the only way he knew how. I pulled him into my arms and held him while he sobbed against my shoulder. It's okay, I whispered. You're safe now. I'm safe now. You did the right thing telling me. But even as I said it, I knew we weren't safe. Not yet. Caroline and James were somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, unreachable. They wouldn't be back for 6 more days. And in my kitchen, there were 12 more packets of poisoned tea. After Aaron cried himself out, we sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I held his hand while my mind raced, trying to make sense of what I was learning. Tell me everything, I said finally. Start from the beginning. And he did. Aaron told me how he'd learned to read by watching Patricia Holbrook through the fence. How she would sit in her garden every afternoon at 3 o'clock with a book, and she'd started reading aloud when she noticed him watching. She thought she was just being kind to a developmentally delayed child. She had no idea she was educating a genius. He told me about teaching himself math from James's old college textbooks that were stored in their garage. About learning Spanish from Dora the Explorer, and science from documentaries he watched when Caroline thought he was just staring blankly at the TV. He told me about the night 2 years ago when he'd heard Caroline on the phone in her bedroom. He'd crept close to the door. Caroline never worried about him overhearing because she thought he couldn't understand and listen to her side of the conversation. She was talking to someone about money, Aaron said. About how Dad's salary wasn't enough. About how her brother Tyler owed a lot of money to some bad people. About how they were going to lose everything if they didn't come up with $85,000 fast. Her brother? I hadn't known Caroline had a brother. In 3 years of marriage, she'd never mentioned him. He lives in Eugene. He has a drug problem. Mom tries to help him, but he always needs more money. Aaron recited this in the matter-of-fact way children do without judgment. That night on the phone, she was talking about you. About your house and your savings and the life insurance policy Dad has on you. The life insurance. I'd forgotten about that. James had insisted I take out a policy 5 years ago before Caroline was even in the picture. Just to cover final expenses, Mom, so I won't be burdened. It was a $500,000 policy. Between that, my house, and my savings account, I was worth well over $1 million. More than enough to pay off Tyler's debts and give Caroline the lifestyle she wanted. The person on the phone told Mom it had to look natural, Aaron continued. They talked about something called benzos and how old people take them for anxiety, and how if you mixed them with other medicines, it could make someone seem like they had dementia. Benzodiazepines, drugs like Xanax and Ativan. I'd taken Ativan once years ago after Richard died. It had made me feel disconnected, foggy, forgetful. Aaron, do you know who she was talking to on the phone? He nodded. A woman named Vanessa. She's Mom's friend from when Mom used to be a nurse. She works at a pharmacy now. Of course. A pharmacist. That's how Caroline was getting the drugs. When did she start putting the medicine in my tea? I think about 2 years ago. That's when you started sleeping more when you visited. And when Mom started telling Dad you were getting confused. 2 years of systematic poisoning. 2 years of stealing my cognitive function piece by piece. 2 years of making my own son believe his mother was declining into dementia. But this week, I looked at the tea packets on the counter. Why this week specifically? Aaron's face went pale. I heard her talking to Vanessa 3 days ago. She said she was tired of waiting. She said the cruise was the perfect opportunity because she and Dad would be far away with lots of witnesses. She said the medicine in this week's tea was much stronger. She said his voice broke. She said by the time they got back, it would probably be over. Over. Such a gentle word for murder. She was going to kill me this week, I said aloud, needing to hear it to believe it. While they were safely on a cruise ship, and everyone would think I'd died of natural causes, an elderly woman with documented cognitive decline who simply didn't wake up one morning. Aaron nodded miserably. I should have been terrified. I should have been crying or panicking or calling the police. Instead, I felt something else entirely. A cold, clear rage that burned away the fog in my mind like morning sun burning through Portland's clouds. For 2 years, I'd been blaming myself for the forgetfulness, for the confusion, for sleeping through afternoons. I thought I was losing my mind, becoming a burden, sliding into the same dementia that had taken my mother. But I wasn't sick. I was being poisoned. And my grandson, this brilliant, brave 8-year-old child, had been forced to watch it happen in silence, carrying the weight of terrible knowledge all alone. Aaron, I said, taking both his hands in mine, I need you to show me everything you know, everything you've heard, every piece of evidence you have. Can you do that? He looked up at me with those intelligent brown eyes, and I saw hope there. Hope that he wasn't alone anymore. Hope that someone finally believed him. I've been collecting things, he said. Mom doesn't know. She thinks I'm too broken to understand. But I'm not broken, Grandma. I never was. He led me to the guest room where he slept when they visited. It was simply decorated pale blue walls, a twin bed with a navy comforter, a small dresser. Aaron went to the dresser and carefully moved aside his folded pajamas. Underneath, wrapped in an old receiving blanket, was a shoebox. A Nike shoebox, to be precise. Size 4 children's sneakers. I've been saving evidence for 2 years, he said as he carried the box to the bed. Just in case I ever got the chance to tell someone. He opened the lid. Inside was a collection that would have made any detective proud. The first thing I pulled out was a Ziploc bag containing 5 tea packets. They looked identical to the ones on my kitchen counter, but these were labeled with different dates going back almost 2 years. I took 1 packet every few months, Aaron explained. Mom makes so many she never noticed when one went missing. I thought maybe someday someone would need to test them. Someone, meaning he'd been hoping for 2 years that somebody would notice, that somebody would help. Next came a small photo album, the kind you can buy at Walgreens for $5. Inside were pictures that made my blood run cold. They were photographs of Caroline crushing pills. She was in her kitchen using a mortar and pestle grinding white tablets into powder. Aaron had somehow managed to take these photos from a distance, probably using an old device she thought he didn't know how to operate. Her old iPad, Aaron confirmed when I asked. She gave it to me to watch cartoons. She doesn't know I figured out the camera. There were at least 20 photos, all from different dates. In each one, Caroline was preparing the tea mixture, her face focused and intent. In several shots, you could clearly see the pill bottles beside her. I squinted at one photo, trying to make out the labels. Lorazepam, Zolpidem, diphenhydramine, drugs that in combination would cause exactly the symptoms I'd been experiencing. confusion, drowsiness, memory loss. The photo album also contained pictures of documents. Erin had photographed pages from Caroline's computer when she left it unattended. I found myself looking at printed Google searches. How long does it take for dementia symptoms to appear? Can anxiety medication cause memory loss in elderly? Natural causes of death in seniors. How to tell if elderly parent needs nursing home. Oregon inheritance laws. Life insurance payout after natural death. The search history painted a damning picture of premeditation. But the most chilling item in the box was a small notebook. It was the kind kids use for school with a black and white speckled cover. Erin's handwriting, surprisingly neat for an 8-year-old, filled every page. He'd kept a log. I opened it to a random page, March 15th, 2023. Mom crushed pills at 2:00 p.m. Put powder in jar labeled special tea mix. Grandma Eli visits tomorrow. Phone call at 8:30 p.m. Heard Mom say the doctor said her blood pressure is normal. No reason for her to be this tired. Maybe we need to increase the dose. I flipped to another entry, June 3rd, 2023. Grandma Eli slept all afternoon. She forgot Dad's name for a minute. Dad looked worried. Mom smiled. And another September 10th, 2023, Mom talking to Vanessa on phone. Said she's getting worse. Dr. Kim is starting to ask questions. Maybe we should back off for a few weeks, let her stabilize. Mom told Dad they should start looking at nursing homes. Just to be prepared, she said. Dad looked sad but nodded. Page after page. 2 years of observations. 2 years of a child documenting his mother's crime because he had no other way to stop it. Erin, I whispered. Why did you? I knew it was wrong, he said simply. What Mom was doing. I didn't understand everything at first, but I knew it was bad. I thought if I wrote it all down, maybe someday someone would see it and know the truth. The last entry in the notebook was from 3 days ago, October 2nd, 2024, Mom and Vanessa on phone. Mom said, "The cruise is perfect timing. I'm making the tea packets extra strong. Dr. Kim won't question it. She already has Eli's documented cognitive decline. It'll look like her heart just gave out. Vanessa said to make sure the Digitalis is mixed in carefully." Digitalis. A heart medication that in the wrong doses could cause cardiac arrest. I set down the notebook with shaking hands. She was planning to kill me this week, while they were safely in Alaska. Erin nodded. I heard her tell Dad that if anything happened while they were gone, it would just prove you shouldn't have been living alone. She said he shouldn't feel guilty because you'd probably be happier in heaven with Grandpa Richard anyway. The manipulation was masterful. Caroline had framed my murder as an act of mercy, a natural end to a life already dimmed by cognitive decline. And James, my son, who I'd raised to be thoughtful and kind, had apparently gone along with it. Or at least hadn't stopped it. Does your dad know? I had to ask. About the medicine in the tea? Erin's face crumpled. I think he knows something's wrong. I've heard him and Mom fighting. He says things like, "This isn't right, and there has to be another way." But Mom always says they don't have a choice. That Tyler will die if they don't get the money. That it's really your fault for not helping them when they needed it. My fault. Caroline had convinced James that I was somehow responsible for their financial problems, when in reality I'd never even known they were struggling. If they'd asked for help, I would have given it. But asking for help wouldn't give them control of my entire estate. I sat on the edge of Erin's bed, the evidence spread around me, and tried to process the enormity of what I was learning. My daughter-in-law was a would-be murderer. My son was at minimum complicit in elder abuse. And my grandson was a hero who'd been forced to spend 3 years of his childhood in silence, protecting me the only way he could. We need to be very careful, I told Erin. If your mother suspects you've told me or that I know what she's doing, she'll hurt you, Erin said. His voice was matter of fact, but his eyes were frightened. Or she'll find a way to make it seem like I'm lying. She's already got everyone thinking I can't talk. If I suddenly start talking now, she'll say you made me do it. That you're confused and imagining things. He was right. Any story I told would be filtered through the lens of my documented cognitive decline. Caroline had spent 2 years establishing my unreliability as a witness, but she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated both of us. Erin, can you keep pretending a little longer? When other people are around, can you go back to being the Erin everyone expects? He nodded immediately. I've been doing it for 3 years, Grandma. I can do it as long as you need me to." The courage in those words broke my heart and filled me with fierce pride in equal measure. "Good, because we're going to need to be smarter than your mother. We're going to gather more evidence. We're going to make sure that when we expose her, the truth is so clear that nobody can deny it. Can you help me do that?" For the first time since he'd started speaking, Aaron smiled. "Yes, Grandma, I can help." Sunday evening, after Aaron showed me everything in his box of evidence, I made a decision. We needed professional help, medical confirmation, something that couldn't be dismissed as the confused ramblings of an elderly woman. Monday morning at 8:45, I called my doctor's office. "Oregon Family Medicine, this is Jennifer speaking." "Jennifer, this is Eli Morrison. I need to speak with Dr. Kim. It's urgent." "Dr. Kim is with a patient right now, Mrs. Morrison. Can I have her call you back?" "No." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "I'm sorry, but I need to speak with her this morning. It's about medication interactions. Potentially dangerous ones." There was a pause. "Hold, please." 2 minutes later, Dr. Rachel Kim's calm voice came through the line. "Eli, Jennifer said this is urgent." Dr. Kim had been my physician for the past 8 years. She was 48, thorough, and had the kind of no-nonsense approach I appreciated. When Richard died, she'd been the one to check on me weekly to make sure I was eating and sleeping and not sliding into depression. "Rachel, I need comprehensive blood work, today, for drug screening." Another pause. "That's unusual. Eli, what's going on?" I took a deep breath. "I believe someone has been giving me medications without my knowledge for approximately 2 years, and I think they're trying to kill me." Silence on the other end. Then, "I can see you at 10:30. Come straight to the office. Don't eat or drink anything before the appointment." At 10:15, I bundled Aaron into my Camry. He was back in his silent mode, prepared for the outside world. But in the car with just the two of us, he spoke freely. "Are you going to tell Dr. Kim about me?" he asked. "Not yet," I said. "We need to be strategic. Right now, you're our secret weapon. If Caroline finds out you can talk, she'll find a way to discredit everything you've witnessed." "She'll say you made me talk," Aaron agreed. "That you coached me because you're confused." Smart kid. Too smart for his own good, maybe. The clinic was in a medical building on S.E. Hawthorne, not far from my house. Aaron held my hand as we walked in every inch the nonverbal child with developmental delays. His eyes were downcast. His movements were slightly awkward, uncoordinated. It was a performance that would have fooled anyone who didn't know better. Jennifer at the front desk gave us a sympathetic smile. "Hi there, Aaron. You're being so good for Grandma today." Aaron didn't respond, didn't even look up. Perfect. We were taken back immediately. The medical assistant, a young woman named Sophie, took my vitals. Blood pressure was elevated. 140/90. "Are you feeling stressed, Mrs. Morrison?" Sophie asked. "You could say that," I replied. Dr. Kim entered a moment later. She wore navy scrubs and her long black hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Her expression was concerned. "Eli, tell me what's happening." With Aaron sitting quietly in the corner appearing to study his shoes, I explained. Not everything I couldn't risk Caroline somehow finding out, but enough. I told her about the tea, about feeling increasingly confused and forgetful over the past 2 years, about suspecting I was being drugged. "Who do you think is doing this?" Dr. Kim asked. "My daughter-in-law, Caroline, daughter." Kim's pen paused over her tablet. "Eli, these are serious accusations. If you're being drugged against your will, this is a crime. We need to involve the police." "I need proof first," I said. "Caroline is a former nurse. She knows how to manipulate medical systems. She's been telling everyone I have cognitive decline. If I accuse her without evidence, it's just the word of a confused old woman against a concerned daughter-in-law." Dr. Kim studied me for a long moment. "You don't seem confused right now. Actually, you seem clearer than you have in months." "I haven't had the tea since Saturday morning," I said. "And even that dose I didn't finish." She nodded slowly. "All right, let's run the tests. Comprehensive drug panel toxicology screened the works. But Eli, I need to tell you something." My stomach tightened. "What in?" 3 months ago, your routine blood work showed elevated levels of benzodiazepines. I noted it in your chart. Caroline called me the next day. The room seemed to tilt. "She called you. She said she'd given you some of her old Ativan to help with sleep. She apologized for not checking with me first. She seemed genuinely concerned about you, so I accepted her explanation and documented it as a disclosed medication. Caroline had covered her tracks. Of course she had. What did the levels indicate? I asked. They were higher than a single dose would produce, but Caroline explained that you'd been confused and might have taken extra doses without remembering. Given your reported cognitive symptoms, it seemed plausible. And you believed her? Dr. Kim had the grace to look uncomfortable. I had no reason not to. Caroline presented as a caring daughter-in-law worried about her aging mother-in-law. She had medical training, so she understood the terminology. And your symptoms were consistent with early-stage dementia. Were consistent, because Caroline had been creating those symptoms. Draw the blood, I said. Test for everything. Benzodiazepines, sleep medications, anything that could cause cognitive impairment. Including Digitalis. My breath caught. You know about Digitalis. It's what I would use if I wanted to cause cardiac arrest in an elderly patient, Dr. Kim said bluntly. And make it look natural. Eli, if this is really happening, you're in serious danger. She drew 6 vials of blood. Aaron watched with those careful, observant eyes, still maintaining his silence. Results will take 24 to 48 hours, Dr. Kim said. But I'm putting a rush on it. In the meantime, don't consume anything Caroline has prepared. Nothing. Do you have food in your house? Yes, but check every label. If there's any chance she had access to it, don't eat it. Only consume things you've purchased yourself in sealed containers starting from today. Understand? I nodded. As we were leaving, Dr. Kim touched my arm. Eli, I'm sorry. I should have questioned the benzodiazepine levels more carefully. I should have insisted on seeing you in person instead of accepting Caroline's explanation over the phone. You had no reason to suspect, I said. That's what makes her dangerous. She's good at this. Back home, Aaron and I made sandwiches from fresh bread and turkey I'd bought at Safeway that morning. Everything sealed, everything safe. Grandma, Aaron said between bites, Mom's old phone is in our garage. Dad was supposed to recycle it, but he forgot. I looked up. Why do you think that's important? Because Mom got a new phone 6 months ago. But before she wiped the old one, I charged it and turned off the auto erase feature. I thought maybe there would be messages or pictures that could help. This child, this brilliant strategic child. Can you access it? I asked. If it still has battery, yes. She never put a password on it. Dad kept telling her to, but she said she didn't have anything to hide. Famous last words. James and Caroline's house was a 15-minute drive from mine. A modern craftsman in the Selwood neighborhood purchased 5 years ago for $450,000. Worth at least $600,000 now. They were house rich, but apparently cash poor. I'd watered their plants twice before when they traveled. I still had a key. The house felt wrong without them in it. Too quiet. Too perfect. Caroline kept everything immaculate white furniture, glass coffee table, abstract art on the walls. It looked like a showroom, not a home where an 8-year-old child lived. Aaron led me straight to the garage. Among the boxes of Christmas decorations and old college textbooks, we found a Samsung Galaxy in a cracked pink case. Aaron plugged it into a charger. We waited. The screen lit up. For the next 2 hours, I sat in James and Caroline's garage reading through my daughter-in-law's old text messages. The conversation with Vanessa Brooks went back 3 years, starting casual and friendly, gradually becoming darker. March 2023, Caroline 5th. I don't know what to do. Tyler called again. He's in serious trouble this time. Vanessa, how much does he need, Caroline? $85,000. Some dealer named Snake. They broke 2 of his fingers last week. Said next time it's his neck. Vanessa, Jesus, Caroline. You can't keep bailing him out. Caroline, he's my baby brother. I raised him after Mom died. If I don't help, they'll kill him. I know they will. Vanessa, where are you going to get that kind of money? April 2023. Caroline James won't even consider taking a loan against Eli's house. Says it's her security. Vanessa, how much is the old lady worth? Caroline house is worth $520K, probably has $180K in savings. Life insurance is $500K. Over $1 million total. Vanessa, damn. Caroline, right. And she's already showing signs of decline. James says his grandmother had dementia. It runs in families. There was a gap of 2 weeks then, Vanessa. I've been thinking about your situation. I might be able to help. Caroline, how Vanessa? I work in a pharmacy. Remember, I have access to certain medications. Caroline 5th. I can't ask you to, Vanessa. You didn't ask. I'm offering. But we have to be smart about it. May 2023, Caroline. Are you sure this will work? Vanessa benzos cause confusion in elderly patients. Mix in some Z drugs for sleep and she'll present exactly like early dementia. Doctors see what they expect to see. Caroline, how long Vanessa depends on how aggressive you want to be. Could take a year, could take 3. Caroline Tyler doesn't have 3 years. Vanessa, then we'll need to escalate eventually. But slow is safer. Build the medical history first. The messages chronicled everything. Vanessa providing pills. Caroline crushing them into powder. The development of the special tea routine. Adjustments to dosages when I seem too alert or not confused enough. Then in August, a shift, Caroline. He knows. Vanessa James, Caroline. He found my pill crusher. I told him I was just making herbal supplements, but he's not stupid. Vanessa, what did he say, Caroline? Nothing. That's the problem. He just looked at me and walked away. Vanessa, you need to lock him down. If he talks Caroline, he won't. I told him we're in this together now, that if anyone finds out, he'll go to prison too for not stopping it. Vanessa, will that work, Caroline? He loves me. He's weak, but he loves me. And he's terrified of losing Aaron. October 2024, Caroline Tyler died. Vanessa, what, when, Caroline? 3 days ago. Fentanyl overdose. I found out from his landlord. Vanessa, oh God, Caroline, I'm so sorry. Caroline, I spent 2 years trying to save him and he's dead anyway. Vanessa, so what now? Do you want to stop? There was a 12-hour gap before Caroline's response. Caroline, no. I've come this far. And James is asking too many questions. If I stop now, he might actually grow a spine and go to the police. Better to finish it. Vanessa, you're sure, Caroline? The cruise is perfect timing. I'll make the tea packets extra strong. When they find her, it'll just be a sad story about an old woman who died alone. Natural causes. Heart failure. No investigation. Vanessa, I'll get you the digitalists. I set down the phone, my hands shaking. Tyler had died before Caroline left for the cruise. She'd been poisoning me to save her brother, but he was already gone. And she'd decided to kill me anyway. Grandma, Aaron was watching me carefully. Are you okay? Her brother died, I said. 3 days before they left. She was doing all this to save him, but he's already dead. So she's doing it just for the money now, Aaron said. He understood. Of course he did. Tuesday at 8 p.m. right on schedule, Caroline called. Aaron and I had rehearsed this. I needed to sound worse than Sunday. Needed Caroline to believe her plan was working. Hello? I slurred the word, made my voice thick and confused. Eli, it's Caroline. How are you feeling today? So tired. Can't seem to... What day is it? It's Tuesday, Eli. Have you been drinking your tea? The tea? Yes. I think there are so many packets. I can't remember which ones. Perfect. Let her think I was too confused to keep track. That's okay, Caroline said, and I could hear the satisfaction humming underneath her concern. Did Aaron eat dinner? Aaron, is he? I thought he was at school. Eli, it's 8 p.m., and Aaron doesn't go to school, remember? He's homeschooled because of his needs. I let myself sound flustered. Oh, yes, of course. I'm sorry I'm so confused today. Have you had any dizzy spells, any chest pain? The questions were too specific. She was checking for symptoms of digitalis poisoning. My chest feels heavy sometimes, and the room spins when I stand up. That's normal for someone your age, Caroline said quickly. Just make sure you rest. Don't try to do too much. If you feel really unwell, just lie down. Sometimes the best thing is to let your body do what it needs to do. Let your body do what it needs to do. Translation, don't call 911 when the digitalist stops your heart. How's the cruise? I asked, trying to sound like I cared. Wonderful. The glacier tour was beautiful. James is a little seasick, but otherwise we're having a lovely time. After we hung up, Aaron looked at me with admiration. You're a really good actress, Grandma. So are you, sweetheart? So are you. Dr. Kim called at 9 a.m. Eli, I need you to come to the office, now. What did you find? Not over the phone. Can you be here in 20 minutes? Aaron and I sat in Dr. Kim's office while she pulled up my test results on her computer screen. These levels are dangerous, she said without preamble. You have 3 times the therapeutic dose of lorazepam in your system, toxic levels of diphenhydramine, high concentrations of zolpidem, and traces of digoxin. Digoxin, I repeated. That's Digitalis, a heart medication. In controlled doses, it helps with arrhythmia. In the amounts you've been given, it could cause cardiac arrest. She turned the screen toward me. Eli, if you'd kept drinking that tea, you'd probably be dead within the week. The words hung in the air. Dead within the week. Aaron's small hand found mine under the desk. How long until these drugs clear my system? I asked. You've been off them for 4 days, correct? The benzodiazepines have a half-life of about 12 to 15 hours. You're already probably feeling clearer, more alert. The digoxin is concerning it has a longer half-life, but since you stopped before reaching toxic levels, you should be okay. Will I get my memory back, my cognitive function? Most of it, yes. These drugs were creating artificial symptoms. Once they're out of your system, your baseline cognitive function should return. She paused. Eli, this is attempted murder. We need to call the police. I need more evidence first, I said. Caroline is smart. She's covered her tracks. She'll claim I was confused and took pills by mistake. She'll point to my documented cognitive decline she created as proof I'm an unreliable witness. Dr. Kim studied me for a long moment. What's your plan? She comes back Saturday. I need until then to gather evidence that's irrefutable. Evidence that will survive her attempts to discredit it. And if something goes wrong before Saturday, then you have these test results. You have my statement, and you have... I glanced at Aaron, still in his silent performance mode. Other evidence. Dr. Kim followed my gaze. For a moment I thought she might push harder. Instead, she nodded. I'm documenting everything. If anything happens to you, Eli Caroline won't get away with it. Back home, Aaron and I spread out all the evidence on my dining room table. The tea packets he'd collected over 2 years, the photographs of Caroline crushing pills, his notebook with 2 years of observations, the text messages on Caroline's old phone, my blood test results. We need to identify Vanessa, I said. We have her first name and we know she's a pharmacist, but we need to find her. Aaron pulled out his notebook and flipped to a page near the back. I wrote down her number, from when Mom called her. Smart kid. I did a reverse phone lookup online. Within minutes I had an address. Vanessa Brooks, age 34, employed at Cascade Pharmacy on SE Division. She's the one who got the drugs, I said. She's Caroline's accomplice. Aaron nodded. Are you going to call the police now? Not yet. I want to see who Vanessa is first, understand what we're dealing with. At 2 p.m. I drove to Cascade Pharmacy. It was a small independent drugstore, the kind that was becoming rare in an age of CVS and Walgreens chains. I parked across the street and waited. At 2:45, a woman emerged from the back entrance. Mid-30s auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing scrubs. She lit a cigarette with shaking hands. She looked exhausted, stressed, guilty. I watched her smoke through 2 cigarettes, checking her phone obsessively. On impulse, I got out of the car. Vanessa Brooks. She jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Who's asking? My name is Eli Morrison. I think you know who I am. The color drained from her face. I can't. She looked around frantically as if expecting Caroline to materialize. I know what you've been helping Caroline do, I said quietly. I know about the pills, the digoxin, all of it. You can't prove anything. But her voice shook. I have Caroline's text messages. I have my blood work showing toxic levels of medications I never prescribed. I have 2 years of evidence. I took a step closer. What I don't understand is why. Why would you help her poison an innocent woman? Vanessa's cigarette fell from her fingers. I have a daughter, 12 years old. I'm a single mom and I have gambling debts, $70,000. These men, they said if I didn't pay, they'd hurt her. Another story of desperation, another person choosing wrong out of fear. Caroline promised to split the money with you, I guessed. She nodded miserably. Half the life insurance, $250,000, enough to pay off the debt and start over. And you were willing to commit murder for it. I didn't think about it like that, Caroline made it sound. She said you were old anyway, that you had dementia, that it would be mercy, really. The justifications sounded hollow even as she spoke them. I don't have dementia, I said. I had a daughter-in-law who was poisoning me. Vanessa was crying now. I know it was wrong. But Tyler died, and I thought maybe Caroline would stop, but she didn't. And now I don't know how to— You're going to help me, I said. She looked up, shocked. What? You're going to help me stop her? You're going to testify to what you did? Provide evidence? And maybe, just maybe, that will count for something when this all comes out. She'll kill me. If Caroline finds out I told you anything— Caroline is going to prison, I said firmly. But if you help me put her there, if you tell the truth, I'll make sure the prosecutor knows you cooperated. Vanessa wiped her eyes. Why would you help me after what I did to you? Because I have a grandson who deserves to grow up knowing that people can choose to do the right thing even after they've done wrong. Thursday morning, while Erin ate breakfast, I continued searching through Caroline's old phone. In her email, I found something that made my heart sink. A thread between James and Caroline from 6 months ago. From James Morrison to Caroline Morrison. Subject: We need to talk, Caroline. I found the pill crusher in your makeup bag. I saw the dosage notes in your planner. I know what you're doing to my mother. This has to stop. This is murder. You're killing her. I should go to the police right now. I should protect her. But you're my wife. You're Erin's mother. I don't know what to do. Please tell me there's another way. Please. My son had known. For 6 months, James had known his wife was poisoning me, and he'd done nothing. Caroline's response: James, don't be dramatic. Your mother is 67 years old. She's already declining. You've seen it yourself. All I'm doing is helping nature along. Tyler will die if we don't get that money. My baby brother will die. Is that what you want? You want me to choose your mother over my brother. And think about Erin. Think about giving him a real life. Private schools, therapy, everything he needs. Besides, you already know. You've known for weeks, haven't you? You saw the signs and you looked the away. The police will see those emails and know you were complicit. So you have 2 choices. Help me or go down with me. I love you. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. There were more emails. Weeks of James agonizing, Caroline manipulating. My son was weak, caught between love for his wife and duty to his mother, paralyzed by fear and guilt. The last email was from 2 weeks ago, from James Morrison to Caroline Morrison. I can't stop you. God help me. I'm too much of a coward to stop you. But I can't be part of it either. I'm going on this cruise because if I stay, I'll break. I'll call the police or tell Mom or do something that ruins all of us. But when we get back, when this is over, I don't know if I can live with what we've done. I sat staring at the screen for a long time. My son wasn't evil. He was weak, manipulated, trapped in a marriage with a woman who'd used his love as a weapon. It didn't excuse what he'd allowed to happen, but it explained it. Erin, I said that evening over dinner, I need to tell you something. I haven't been completely honest with you. He looked up from his spaghetti, curious. When did you first realize something was wrong? He asked. 10 days ago, before your parents left for the cruise. His eyes widened. You knew all this time? Not everything, but I found pill residue in my teacup. I bought a home drug test kit online. They sell them for concerned parents who want to test their teenagers. It came back positive for benzodiazepines. Why didn't you say something? Because I needed to know how far it had gone. I needed Caroline to think her plan was working, and I needed time to protect you. I pulled out documents from my desk drawer, legal papers I'd had drawn up by my attorney, Margaret Winters, the previous week. My will has been updated. Everything goes to you, the house, my savings, the life insurance. Caroline and James get nothing. There's a trust fund that will pay for your education, your care. If something happens to me, Patricia Holbrook next door is named as your guardian, not your parents. Erin's eyes filled with tears. You did all that for me. I also installed a hidden camera. I pointed to the clock on the kitchen wall. It looks normal, but it's recording. I captured Caroline preparing the tea packets before they left. She crushed pills right there at this counter, mixed them into the tea, carefully labeled each packet. So you have video evidence, Erin said slowly. I do, and I have your evidence, and I have Dr. Kim's blood tests, and now I have Vanessa's confession. When your mother comes back on Saturday, we'll have everything we need. Were you ever going to drink the tea? No, sweetheart, I was never going to drink the tea. He smiled through his tears. We were both pretending, both gathering evidence, both protecting each other. That's what family does, I said. Friday morning, Detective William Foster came to my house. Dr. Kim had insisted. You have enough evidence, she'd said. You need police protection in case Caroline comes back early. Detective Foster was 55 with gray hair and the patient demeanor of someone who'd seen everything. He sat at my dining room table and examined our evidence board. Aaron had helped me create it the night before. Photos, timeline documents, all connected with red string like something from a crime show. Mrs. Morrison, Detective Foster said after 20 minutes of silence. This is the most thoroughly documented attempted murder case I've ever seen. Is it enough? I asked. It's more than enough. We have motive, means, opportunity, intent, and physical evidence. The video of her preparing the poisoned tea alone would be sufficient for prosecution. What about Aaron? The detective looked at my grandson, who was maintaining his silent act. He'll need to be interviewed by a child forensic specialist. His testimony will be crucial, especially regarding the coercion and threats. Will he have to testify in court? Possibly, but given his age and the circumstances, there are protections in place. He paused. Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask, why did you wait? Why not come to us immediately when you suspected? Because I'm a 67-year-old woman with documented cognitive decline. If I'd come to you on Sunday babbling about poison tea and my grandson secretly being able to talk, what would you have thought? He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I would have suggested a psychiatric evaluation, probably. Exactly. I needed irrefutable evidence. I needed witnesses. I needed proof that could survive Caroline's attempts to paint me as a confused old woman. You got it, he said. We'll arrest her and James when they return tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm posting an officer outside your house, just as a precaution. At 6 p.m., Detective Foster brought Vanessa Brooks to my house. She'd agreed to make a full statement. In exchange, the DA would consider her cooperation when filing charges. We sat in my living room, me, Aaron, still silent, Detective Foster and Vanessa. Tell Mrs. Morrison everything, the detective said. Vanessa twisted her hands in her lap. It started 18 months ago. Caroline came to the pharmacy where I work. We'd been friends since nursing school, but we'd lost touch. She said she needed help. What kind of help? Detective Foster asked. Her brother owed money to dangerous people. She needed $85,000 fast. She'd tried everything, legitimate loans, credit cards, borrowing from family. Nothing worked. So she decided to kill her mother-in-law, I said flatly. She said it wasn't like that. She said you were old, already declining. She said it would be like helping you along, that you'd probably die in a few years anyway. The justifications of a killer. How many pills did you provide? Over the course of 18 months, maybe 300 total. Lorazepam, Zolpidem, diphenhydramine. I took them from expired stock or from prescriptions that were abandoned. Small amounts at a time so the inventory wouldn't flag. And the Digitalis, that was recent, 2 weeks ago. Caroline said she was tired of waiting, that she wanted it finished. Did you know her brother had died? Vanessa nodded miserably. She told me. I hoped she'd stop, but she said she'd come too far, that James knew, and if she didn't follow through, he might go to the police, and they'd both go to prison. So she decided to kill me to cover up the crime she'd already committed, I said. I know it sounds insane. I know it is insane, but by that point I was in so deep. I'd already helped her poison you for over a year. I couldn't back out without admitting my own guilt. Aaron spoke for the first time, his clear voice startling Vanessa so badly she jumped. You could have, he said. You could have stopped any time. You could have told the police. You could have told Grandma Eli. You could have done lots of things, but you chose not to. Vanessa stared at him. You can talk. I can read. I can think. I've been watching my mother poison my grandmother for 2 years, and I couldn't say anything because I was scared. But you're an adult. You weren't scared of my mom. You were scared of getting caught. The truth from an 8-year-old child. Vanessa broke down completely. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Detective Foster recorded everything, every detail, every pill, every conversation with Caroline, every rationalization. It took 3 hours. When it was done, the detective said, Vanessa Brooks, I'm placing you under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and illegal distribution of controlled substances. As they led her away, she looked back at me. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday you can forgive yourself, I replied. Saturday morning arrived cold and gray. Caroline and James were due home at 2 p.m. Aaron and I ate breakfast in silence. The real silence of contemplation, not the forced silence of pretending. Are you scared? He asked. No, I said. And I meant it. Are you? A little. She's my mom. Even though she did bad things, she's still my mom. I took his hand. It's okay to have complicated feelings. You can be angry at her and still love her. You can be glad she's being stopped and still sad about what's going to happen. Will I have to see her after today? Only if you want to. The court will appoint a guardian ad litem, someone who represents your interests. You'll get to decide what kind of contact you want with your parents. What about Dad? That was harder. Your dad made terrible choices. He knew what was happening and didn't stop it. But I think he was trapped between loving the wrong person and being too afraid to do the right thing. Is he going to prison too? Probably. For a while. But Aaron, none of this is your fault. None of it. At noon, Detective Foster called. They've landed in Seattle. Should be at your house by 2:15. We have units ready to make the arrest. Are you prepared? Yes, I said. We're ready. At 2:12 p.m., a Tesla Model Y pulled into my driveway. I watched from the living room window as James and Caroline got out. They both looked tanned and relaxed. Caroline was laughing at something James had said. They had no idea what was waiting for them. I positioned myself in the armchair, Aaron on the floor nearby with his toys. We'd agreed on the staging. Let them come in. Let them see what they expected to see. Then we'd tear down their world. The front door opened. Caroline still had her key. Eli, she called out. We're home. How are you feeling? I didn't respond immediately. Let her wonder. She appeared in the living room doorway, James behind her. Eli, her voice carried that false concern. Are you okay? I looked up slowly as if disoriented. Caroline, you're back already. We've been gone a week, Eli. How have you been? Confused, I said honestly. Very confused, but it's getting better. Something flickered in her eyes. Have you been drinking your tea? Every drop. I lied, just like you told me to. She smiled. Good. That's good. You look tired, though. Maybe you should rest. Actually, I said, my voice suddenly clear and strong. I feel better than I have in 2 years. Caroline's smile faltered. What, meh? I said I feel wonderful, clear-headed, sharp. It's amazing what happens when you stop being poisoned. The color drained from her face. James stepped forward. Mom, what are you? I know everything, James. I stood up and I was surprised to find I wasn't shaking. I know about the pills, the tea, the plan to kill me this week while you were safely in Alaska. I know about Vanessa. I know about Tyler. I know that you knew James, and you did nothing. That's insane, Caroline said, but her voice cracked. You're confused, Eli. This is the dementia talking. James, she needs help. Actually, Detective Foster said, stepping in from the kitchen where he'd been waiting, she's perfectly lucid. Caroline Morrison, James Morrison, you're both under arrest. 2 uniformed officers appeared behind him. For what? Caroline demanded. This is ridiculous. She's an old woman with dementia making wild accusations. We have video of you preparing the poisoned tea, Detective Foster said. We have text messages between you and Vanessa Brooks planning Mrs. Morrison's murder. We have blood tests showing toxic levels of medications. We have 2 years of documented evidence. And we have a witness. What witness? There's no... Aaron stood up and spoke. Hi, Mom, he said in his clear, perfect voice. Surprise. I can talk. I could always talk. And I saw everything. The silence in my living room was absolute. Caroline stood frozen, her face cycling through shock, disbelief, and dawning horror. James had gone completely white, swaying slightly as if he might faint. And Aaron, my brave, brilliant grandson, stood tall, no longer hiding, no longer pretending. You can talk, Caroline whispered. You've been able to talk this whole time. Yes, Mom, since I was born, just like every other kid. Aaron's voice was steady, but I could see his hands trembling at his sides. You made me pretend. You said if I ever spoke in front of anyone, you'd make Grandma Eli disappear. You said terrible things would happen. So I stayed quiet. That's not true. You're making this up. Eli put these ideas in your head. I have recordings, Aaron said simply, of you talking to Vanessa, about the pills, about killing Grandma. I've been recording for 2 years. Caroline's legs seemed to give out. She grabbed the back of the sofa for support. James finally found his voice. Mom, I can explain. Explain what, James? I turned to my son. Explain how you knew your wife was poisoning me and did nothing. Explain the emails where you said you were too much of a coward to stop her. Explain how you chose her over your own mother. Tears were streaming down his face. I didn't know what to do. She said we were already both guilty. She said if I went to the police, we'd both go to prison and Aaron would end up in foster care. So you decided to let me die instead. The words came out flat, emotionless. I'd cried all my tears over the past week. Now there was only cold clarity. I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. Caroline Morrison. Detective Foster stepped forward with handcuffs. You're under arrest for attempted murder, elder abuse, child endangerment, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. No! Caroline's voice was shrill. This is insane. I haven't done anything. She's a confused old woman. Look at her medical records. She has dementia. And the boy, he's autistic nonverbal. He can't possibly... Actually, Dr. Rachel Kim said, entering from the kitchen where she'd also been waiting. Mrs. Morrison's blood work shows no signs of cognitive decline. What it does show is toxic levels of lorazepam, zolpidem, diphenhydramine, and digoxin, medications that were never prescribed to her, medications that you systematically administered over 2 years with the intent to kill her. Caroline's face twisted with rage. You can't prove I did anything anyone could have given her those pills. We have video, I said quietly, from a hidden camera in my kitchen, of you crushing pills and mixing them into the tea packets, every single packet. We can see the pill bottles. We can see you counting doses. We can see you labeling them. I nodded to Detective Foster, who pulled out his phone and played the footage. There was Caroline in my kitchen 9 days ago, methodically crushing white tablets with a mortar and pestle, mixing the powder into dried chamomile, portioning it into small paper envelopes, labeling each one with care. Day 1, morning. Day 1, evening. The video was damning, irrefutable. Caroline watched herself on the screen, and something in her seemed to break. Tyler was supposed to be saved, she said, her voice hollow. That was the whole point. Save Tyler. But he died anyway. He died, and I'd already gone so far. So you decided to finish it, I said. Even though your brother was dead. Even though the reason you started this was gone. You decided to kill me anyway. I couldn't stop. The words burst out of her. Don't you understand? James knew. Vanessa knew. If I stopped, someone would talk. Someone would tell. I had to finish it, or we'd all go to prison. So you escalated, Detective Foster said. You added digoxin to the tea mixture, in doses that would cause cardiac arrest. It was supposed to look natural, an old woman with heart problems living alone, too confused to take care of herself. I don't have heart problems, I said. I didn't have confusion. I had a daughter-in-law who was murdering me. The fight went out of Caroline all at once. She slumped, the handcuffs clicking around her wrists. James Morrison, Detective Foster turned to my son. You're also under arrest as an accessory to attempted murder and for child endangerment. Dad knew. Aaron's voice was small hurt. He knew, and he didn't stop her. James looked at his son, tears pouring down his face. Aaron, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was weak. I was a coward. I should have protected you both, but I was too afraid. You were afraid. Aaron's voice rose. I was 8 years old, and I wasn't allowed to talk for 3 years because I was afraid Mom would hurt Grandma. But I still tried to protect her. I collected evidence. I stayed quiet when it was hard. I was brave, even though I was just a kid. The accusation from a child to his father was devastating. James collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands, sobbing. I love you, Aaron, he managed to say. I love you so much. I failed you. I failed your grandmother. But I love you. Love isn't enough, Dad, Aaron said, and the wisdom in those words from an 8-year-old broke my heart. Love doesn't mean anything if you don't do the right thing. 2 police cars sat in my driveway, their lights flashing. Neighbors had gathered on the sidewalk. Patricia Holbrook stood on her porch, one hand over her mouth, watching as Caroline and James were led away in handcuffs. Caroline was screaming now. This is wrong. She's lying. The kid is lying. Check her medical records. She has dementia. She's confused. But her protest sounded hollow even to her own ears. James went quietly, his head down, defeated. As they were put into separate patrol cars, Caroline caught sight of Aaron standing on my porch. "You little traitor," she shrieked. "After everything I did for you, I gave you a home, I took care of you." "You made me a prisoner," Aaron said clearly, his voice carrying across the yard. "You made me live in silence. You threatened Grandma to keep me quiet. You're not a mother. You're a monster." The words hit Caroline like a slap. For just a moment, something like shame crossed her face. Then the car door closed and she was gone. After the police left, Patricia came rushing over. "Eli! Oh my God, Eli, are you all right? I saw the police cars and I thought—" She stopped, taking in Aaron, standing beside me, his hand in mine. "Aaron, did you just speak to Caroline?" Aaron looked up at me. I nodded. "Hi, Mrs. Holbrook," he said. "Thank you for teaching me to read. Through the fence. You didn't know you were doing it, but you saved me." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, sweetheart. You could talk all along." "He could," I said. "And he's been protecting me. He's a hero." Patricia pulled both of us into a hug. "What can I do? What do you need? Right now, maybe just some normalcy. Could Aaron come see your roses? Could we pretend just for an hour that the world is simple and good?" "Of course," she said. "Come on, Aaron. I have a new variety blooming. Lavender-colored. I think you'll love them." I watched them walk next door, Aaron chattering freely for the first time in Patricia's presence, telling her about all the books she'd read to him, asking questions about the stories, finally able to have the conversations he'd been silently yearning for. Dr. Kim touched my shoulder. "How are you holding up, Eli?" "I'm not sure yet," I admitted. "Part of me feels vindicated. Part of me feels sad. That was my son. He chose his wife over me, but he's still my son. He made terrible choices, but he's not entirely lost. He went along with it, yes, but he didn't initiate it. There might be redemption possible. Eventually. And Caroline is going to prison for a very long time," Dr. Kim said firmly. "What she did, the systematic poisoning, the psychological abuse of a child, the calculated planning, the DA is going for maximum sentences." Detective Foster joined us on the porch. "Mrs. Morrison will need you and Aaron to come to the station tomorrow to give formal statements. There will be a child advocate present for Aaron. We'll make it as gentle as possible." "What happens next?" I asked. "Arraignment will be Monday. Given the severity and the flight risk, I expect they'll both be held without bail. The DA will review all the evidence and file formal charges. With everything you've collected, this should be a straightforward prosecution." "How long?" "Could take months to get to trial. But with video evidence, text messages, blood work, Vanessa's cooperation, and Aaron's testimony, I'd bet on guilty pleas. Caroline's looking at 20 years minimum. James as an accessory, maybe 5 to 7. 5 to 7 years. My son would be nearly 50 when he got out. Aaron would be 15. "What about Aaron?" I asked. "What happens to him?" "That's up to you and the court," Detective Foster said. "You're his grandmother. If you want to petition for custody given the circumstances, I can't imagine a judge denying it." "I want him," I said immediately. "He stays with me, for as long as he wants." The next weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, each one adding another layer of justice to the terrible story. Monday, arraignment. Caroline pleaded not guilty, standing before the judge in an orange jumpsuit, her polished exterior completely shattered. James pleaded guilty immediately. "I don't want a trial," he told his public defender. "I did wrong. I want to take responsibility." The judge set bail at $500,000 for Caroline, $100,000 for James. Neither could make it. They were remanded to Multnomah County Jail to await trial. Wednesday, custody hearing. I sat in family court with Aaron beside me, a child advocate named Sarah Mitchell speaking on his behalf. "Your Honor," Sarah said, "Aaron Morrison has made it clear he wishes to remain with his grandmother, Eli Morrison. Given the documented abuse by his mother and the neglect by his father, we recommend temporary emergency custody be granted to Mrs. Morrison with a plan for permanent custody pending the resolution of the criminal cases." The judge, a kind-faced woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Barnes, looked at Aaron. "Young man, do you understand what's happening?" "Yes, Your Honor," Aaron said clearly. "My mom tried to kill my grandma. My dad knew and didn't stop her. I want to live with Grandma Eli. She keeps me safe." "And you're certain about this? You understand your parents may go to prison?" "I'm certain." Judge Barnes granted the emergency custody order. Aaron was officially mine. 2 weeks later, Preliminary hearing. The prosecution presented their evidence. Video footage, text messages, blood work, Vanessa's testimony. Caroline's lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity emotional distress from her brother's death, but the judge wasn't buying it. Ms. Morrison, Judge Barnes said, you spent 2 years systematically poisoning an elderly woman. You forced your child to live in silence through threats and psychological abuse. You researched, you planned, you executed a calculated murder attempt. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was cold, premeditated malice. Caroline was bound over for trial on all charges. 1 month later, Vanessa's plea deal. Vanessa Brooks accepted a plea agreement. 3 years in prison for conspiracy to commit murder and illegal distribution of controlled substances, in exchange for her full cooperation and testimony. I attended her sentencing. She looked small and broken in her prison jumpsuit. Mrs. Morrison, she said when given the chance to speak, I know sorry isn't enough. I know I helped try to kill you. I'll live with that for the rest of my life. But I hope that by telling the truth, now I can help make sure justice is done. Her daughter was in the courtroom being raised by Vanessa's sister, a 12-year-old girl watching her mother go to prison. Another family destroyed by bad choices. 2 months later, James's sentencing. James pled guilty to accessory to attempted murder and child endangerment. At his sentencing hearing, I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I stood at the podium and looked at my son. James, I said, you're my only child. I raised you to be kind, thoughtful, strong. When your father died, you held my hand at the funeral. You told me we'd get through it together. You were 17 years old and you were so brave. James was crying silently. I don't know what happened to that boy. I don't know when you became someone who could stand by and watch his own mother be murdered. But I want you to know something. I paused, gathering my strength. I forgive you. James's head jerked up, shock on his face. I forgive you because you're my son and I love you. But forgiveness doesn't mean there are no consequences. You made terrible choices. You let fear and weakness guide you instead of courage and love. And now you have to live with that. I also want you to know that I'm going to take care of Aaron. I'm going to give him the love and safety you should have given him. I'm going to make sure he grows up knowing he's valued and heard and protected. And maybe someday when you've served your time and done the work to become the man you should have been, you can be part of his life again. But that's his choice to make, not mine. The judge sentenced James to 6 years with possibility of parole after 4. As they led him away, James mouthed "thank you" to me. I didn't mouth anything back. 3 months later, Caroline's trial. Caroline rejected all plea deals and demanded a trial. It lasted 1 week. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. Dr. Kim testified about the blood work. Detective Foster presented the video, the text messages, the evidence Aaron had collected, and Aaron testified. He sat in the witness box, small but brave, and told his story. About being forced into silence. About watching his mother poison his grandmother. About collecting evidence for 2 years because he had no other way to help. Caroline's defense tried to discredit him. How can we trust a child who admits to lying for years? But Aaron didn't break. I didn't lie, he said. I stayed quiet. There's a difference. I stayed quiet because my mom threatened to hurt my grandma if I talked, but I never lied. I just didn't speak. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge looked at Caroline with cold eyes. Ms. Morrison, I've been on the bench for 23 years. I've seen many terrible things, but the calculated cruelty of your crimes is exceptional. You poisoned an elderly woman over 2 years. You psychologically tortured a child. You researched how to make murder look like natural causes. And when your original motivation, saving your brother, was gone, you proceeded anyway. This court sentences you to 20 years in prison for attempted murder, 5 years for elder abuse to run consecutively, and 5 years for child endangerment to run concurrently. You will be eligible for parole in 20 years. Caroline would be 56 when she got out. Aaron would be 28. Spring came to Portland with its usual explosion of flowers and rain. Aaron and I had settled into a routine that felt remarkably like normal life. He was enrolled in regular school 3rd grade. His teachers were amazed by his intelligence, his reading level years beyond his peers. Aaron is remarkable. His teacher, Mrs. Thompson, told me at parent-teacher conferences. His ability to understand complex concepts, his empathy for other students, it's exceptional. But I am concerned about some social awkwardness. He seems to struggle with knowing when to speak up. He's learning, I said. For 3 years he wasn't allowed to talk. It takes time to find your voice again. But he was finding it. Slowly, carefully. He'd made friends with a boy named Marcus, different Marcus from any detective who loved dinosaurs as much as Aaron did. They built elaborate Lego scenes together, their conversations a beautiful cacophony of 8-year-old enthusiasm. He was in therapy twice a week with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the child advocate who'd become his regular therapist. Aaron is processing tremendous trauma, she told me. But his resilience is extraordinary. The fact that he had you as a safe person even during the worst of it gave him an anchor. He knew he was loved. That made all the difference. We celebrated Aaron's 9th birthday in April with a party at my house. Patricia Holbrook helped me decorate streamers and balloons, a dinosaur-themed cake from the local bakery. 15 kids from Aaron's class came. Aaron's friends, Marcus, Sophia, Emily, 2 Jacobs, and others whose names I was still learning. Dr. Kim came with her husband and 2 daughters. Detective Foster stopped by bringing a gift, a junior detective kit complete with a magnifying glass and fingerprint powder. "For the kid who solved his own case," he said with a wink. Aaron opened presents with genuine delight books. Lego's art supplies a new stuffed triceratops to keep his old one company. When it was time for cake, he stood up to speak. The room went quiet. These kids knew Aaron's story. It had been all over the news. Boy's silence saves grandmother's life. "I want to thank everyone for coming," Aaron said. "Last year on my birthday I couldn't talk. Or I thought I couldn't. I was too scared." His voice was steady, but I could see his hands trembling slightly. "This year I can say thank you, and I love you, and I'm happy. Especially to Grandma Eli. You saved my life. Now I get to really live it." The kids applauded. Some of the adults had tears in their eyes. We sang Happy Birthday. Aaron blew out 9 candles, one for each year of his life, including the 3 years of forced silence. "What did you wish for?" Marcus asked. Aaron looked at me and smiled. "I can't tell you, or it won't come true, but I can tell you it already has." That evening, after the guests had left and Aaron was in bed, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine and opened a letter that had arrived that morning. From Columbia River Correctional Institution. From James. "Dear Mom, I hope you and Aaron had a wonderful celebration today. I've been thinking about him all day, imagining what 9 looks like on him. Is he taller? Does he still love dinosaurs? Does he laugh more? Now I know I have no right to ask these questions. I gave up the right to know these things when I chose cowardice over courage. I'm writing this letter for the 100th time. I've thrown away 99 versions because I couldn't find the right words. But I'm realizing there are no right words. There's just truth. I failed you. I failed Aaron. I failed myself. I knew what Caroline was doing, and I told myself I was trapped. I told myself I had no choice. I told myself that if I just waited, maybe it would work out somehow. But that was a lie. I always had a choice. I could have called the police. I could have warned you. I could have taken Aaron and left. I could have done 1,000 things differently. I chose wrong. Every time I chose wrong. I want you to know I'm not making excuses. I'm in therapy here. The prison offers counseling programs. I'm trying to understand how I became someone who could let his own mother be murdered. How I could put my fear of losing Caroline above your life. The therapist says I was in an abusive relationship, that Caroline manipulated me, isolated me, used my love as a weapon. And maybe that's partly true, but it doesn't excuse what I did. It doesn't bring back the 2 years of your life she stole. It doesn't give Aaron back the childhood he deserved. I'm writing because I want you to know I'm grateful. Grateful that you're taking care of Aaron. Grateful that you forgave me even though I don't deserve it. Grateful that you're giving my son the life I should have given him. I'm not asking for anything. I don't expect visits or calls or forgiveness beyond what you've already given. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to become someone who deserves to be called Aaron's father again, even if that day never comes. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry. James. I folded the letter carefully and set it aside. Tomorrow I would write back. Not because James deserved it, but because holding on to anger was exhausting, and I'd spent enough years being tired. But tonight I just sat on my porch and watched the Portland rain fall, grateful to be alive to see it. October came around again. 1 year since Caroline and James had left for their cruise. 1 year since Aaron had spoken for the first time in my kitchen. We marked the anniversary quietly, just the two of us making cookies in the same kitchen where it had all begun. "Do you ever think about her?" Aaron asked, carefully measuring flour. "Mom." "Sometimes," I admitted. "Do you?" "Yeah, I think about what she could have been, if she'd made different choices." "That's very compassionate, Aaron." "Dr. Mitchell says hurt people hurt people. Mom was hurt. Her mom died. She had to raise Uncle Tyler by herself. She was scared and desperate. But she hurt us too." Such wisdom from a 9-year-old. "You're allowed to have complicated feelings," I told him. "You can be angry at her and still miss her. You can be glad she's in prison and still love her." "Do you love Dad still?" I thought about that. Yes, but it's a different kind of love now. Love that knows the person you love is capable of terrible things. Love that exists alongside disappointment and hurt. "He writes to me," Aaron said quietly. "Every week. Long letters about his therapy, about the books he's reading, about how sorry he is." "Have you written back?" "Once. I told him I forgive him, but I'm not ready to see him yet. Maybe when I'm older." "That's very mature. Dr. Mitchell helped me write it." He paused in his measuring. "Is it okay that I forgave him, even though he let Mom hurt you?" I pulled him into a hug. "Forgiveness is always okay. It doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean there are no consequences. It just means you're not letting his mistakes take up space in your heart anymore." We finished the cookies and sat at the kitchen table while they baked, the warm smell of chocolate chips filling the air. "Grandma," Aaron said, "I've been thinking about what I want to be when I grow up." "Oh, what's that?" "A psychologist, like Dr. Mitchell, but for kids who can't talk, kids who are scared or hurt or trapped. I want to help them find their voices." My heart swelled with pride. "That's a beautiful goal. Will you help me study hard and go to college and everything?" "Aaron, I will help you do anything you dream of. Always." 2 years after the arrests, life had found its rhythm. Aaron was 11 now, thriving in 5th grade. Tall for his age, with James's dark hair and my late husband Richard's kind eyes. He played soccer, belonged to the chess club, and had a close group of friends who came over regularly to play video games and argue about Marvel movies. He still saw Dr. Mitchell monthly, though the appointments had become more about general check-ins than trauma processing. James had been granted parole after serving 4 years. He lived in a halfway house in Eugene and worked at a library. He and Aaron video called every Sunday, slowly rebuilding something that might eventually resemble a father-son relationship. Caroline was still in prison with 16 years left on her sentence. Aaron had chosen not to have contact with her, and I supported his decision. Vanessa had been released after serving her 3 years. She'd moved to California to start over, sending me a letter of apology every year on the anniversary of her arrest. It was a Saturday morning in October. Aaron and I were in the kitchen, the heart of our home, making pancakes. He was mixing batter, telling me about the upcoming science fair, debating between a project on volcanoes or one on ocean ecosystems. "What do you think? Grandma, volcanoes are cool, but ocean stuff is more useful for understanding climate change." "I think either one will be brilliant because you'll put your whole heart into it." He grinned. "That's a very grandma answer." "I'm a very grandma. Patricia knocked on the back door she had standing invitation to Saturday breakfast. "Morning, you two. Something smells delicious." "Aaron's making his famous chocolate chip pancakes," I said. "Famous? I've made them exactly 3 times, Aaron protested, but he was smiling. We ate together, the 3 of us, talking about Patricia's garden, Aaron's soccer game that afternoon, the new Indian restaurant that had opened on Hawthorne. Normal conversation. Normal life. After breakfast, Aaron went upstairs to get ready for soccer. Patricia helped me clean up. "He's doing so well," she said softly. "Both of you are." "We are," I agreed. "It took time, but we're okay." "More than okay. You're happy." She was right. Despite everything, the betrayal, the trauma, the long legal battle, we were happy. Aaron thundered back downstairs in his soccer uniform, shin guards in hand. "Grandma Can Marcus's mom dropped me off after the game. The team is going for pizza." Of course, have fun. Text me when you're on your way home. He gave me a quick hug. He was at the age where hugs were becoming less frequent, more precious, and ran out the door. I watched him go, this remarkable boy who had saved my life by finding his voice. Patricia touched my shoulder. You did good, Eli. Richard would be proud. I think he would be, I said. I think he'd say we both did good. Aaron and me. We saved each other. Aaron was 16 now, a sophomore in high school. Tall and lanky with braces and a slight tendency toward teenage awkwardness that I found endearing. He was on the debate team, volunteered at a crisis helpline for teens, and had already been researching colleges with strong psychology programs. James had been fully released and had moved back to Portland. He and Aaron had dinner together every other week, their relationship still careful, still healing, but growing stronger. I was 74 in better health than I'd been at 67, fully recovered from the effects of the poisoning, sharp as ever still active in my community. One evening, Aaron came home from volunteering at the crisis line and found me in the living room reading. Grandma, I helped a kid today. I set down my book. Tell me about it. He couldn't talk. Not like I couldn't talk, but he was so scared he'd just frozen up. His parents were fighting, threatening each other, and he felt trapped in the middle. He called the helpline, but he couldn't make words come out. What did you do? I told him it was okay not to talk, that I understood. And I told him my story, how I stayed silent for 3 years because I was scared, but that I found my voice when it mattered most. I told him silence can be survival, but it doesn't have to be forever. What happened? He started talking. Slow at first, then everything poured out. By the end of the call, we'd made a safety plan. His school counselor is going to meet with him Monday. Aaron's eyes were bright with purpose. You helped him find his voice, I said. Yeah, and Grandma? It felt like the most important thing I've ever done. More important than good grades or soccer wins or anything. Helping that kid feel heard that mattered. You're going to be an amazing psychologist someday. I hope so, because I want to help kids like me, kids who feel voiceless, kids who need someone to believe them. He paused. Kids who need someone like you. I pulled him into a hug. He was taller than me, now had been for a year. You know what I think, I said. I think your voice, the one that was silenced for 3 years, was being saved for all the kids you're going to help. Every word you couldn't say, then you'll say for them now. That's a nice thought, Aaron said. I like that. That night, as I got ready for bed, I looked out my bedroom window at the Portland skyline. The same view I'd seen for 44 years. The same house where I'd raised James, where I'd grieved Richard, where I'd almost died. But also the house where Aaron had found the courage to speak. Where justice had been served, where healing had happened, where a family broken and remade had learned that love means doing the hard thing, the brave thing, the right thing. My phone buzzed with a text from Aaron already in his room. Good night, Grandma. I love you. Thank you for teaching me that finding your voice is worth the fear. I texted back, good night, sweetheart. I love you. Thank you for teaching me that silence can be strength and speaking up can save lives. You're my hero. And it was true. An 8-year-old boy who stayed silent to protect me, who collected evidence for 2 years, who found his voice at exactly the right moment, he was the hero of this story. I was just lucky enough to be saved by him.